Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Let's Talk About the League podcast. I'm Ace. This podcast, as always, is the only podcast you can listen to that talks about the LCUS, the players, the teams, and the past weeks. I'm joined, as always, by Commissioner Sig, and this week we have Arcane Soda and Primedin with us. Sorry for saying Primedin, but that's what I'm going to say. How are you guys doing today?
Doing all right.
No, doing pretty well.
I am fantastic until I had to hop into this snooze fest.
Yeah, yeah. He had to come from work just to hop into more work. It's a great time. Great time. So this is episode 5, which means that week 5's coming up and week 4 is behind us. So let's just hop right into the week 4 recap. First set of games was between More Cowbell and White Wolf Gaming, and it got split 1-1. Lucky for us, we have two players from White Wolf here to talk about it. How does that set go for you guys?
Well, the first set, the first match was uh, kind of a clown fiesta on our end.
It was a bit of a
Um,
challenge.
yeah. We just needed to. I think we could have won the game if we were able to slow it down, um, before it got too bad. But unable. We unfortunately we weren't able to do that, so it kind of just ended up me feeding super hard, and we just kind of lost off of that.
Yeah, and you guys luckily won the second game and of course had the interview at the end. I'm sure some of this was touched on during that. But what can you tell us a little bit about the Pike pick?
Well, Christy had been playing it in some ranked games, and she had been doing pretty well on it, and she was excited to pull it out. We were all kind of, well, at least I know Nick and I were also excited to see it, and we were just kind of hoping for it to go well because new champion, the opposing team probably doesn't have a lot of experience against it yet, or at least doesn't know all the counterplay mechanics. But on the flip side, uh, it's also kind of hard to have a good mastery of the champion so early into its release. So unfortunately, that kind of backfired on us and was not able to get the ball rolling in the bot lane.
Okay. And yeah, so as said, you guys won game 2. It seems like the Vigar was a pretty big swing in that. Also, not having Pike and a 0-11 Jax was probably pretty helpful for game 2 as well. You guys took Vigar both games. Was that just to get it away from CB Hickey, or is there other strategy involved with that?
It's it was more to get it away from CB Hickey, but then also because I play Viger a lot, and it seemed like it would be helpful against the heavy engage CC team that they had in the first game, with Zach and Galio. It didn't end up working too well at the first game though.
Yeah. Uh, cool. Sig, you have anything to say about these games?
I absolutely loved the. I hate to be that guy, but I love to see a 1-1 ending, and especially with the comeback story that you guys gave us. So just riveting show. Bravo, well done.
Yeah. For the first game of that set, actually, Brandana went off for a quadra kill, a pentakill, and 21 kills, which is the record for the LCUS on Lucian. Were you guys surprised that he went with Kaisa in game 2 instead of pulling out the Lucian again?
Uh, we had kind of we actually discussed about banning the Lucian in game two, but we had kind of come to an agreement that the Lucian wasn't the problem. Like Brandana's a good Lucian, but Lucian wasn't the problem. It's we were playing bad as a team, and then he was obviously playing well, and he got a head off of that, and eventually came to a point where he was basically unstoppable. So we decided to just leave it up. And the Kaisa pick was kind of surprising because he did so well on Lucian, but we do know he plays it a lot, so it wasn't unexpected.
Yeah. All right. So set 2 was between Team Phoenix and Team Sub. I mean, Team Northern Storm. They had a different mid laner for the third week in a row, and Team Phoenix ended up taking a 2-0 over them. Um, they ended up in the first game. They gave Van Hohenheim his Vigar, which is an interesting choice. His most played champion by far. Um, Leads to question some pick and ban for Northern Storm. But yeah, did you guys, anyone else watch that set of games?
I did. Kind of. It was kind of a saddening set to watch on Northern Storm's half because I know the jungler on Northern Storm, a spicy hot meme, plays with their new mid laner Baconlicious a lot. So for him to have to be subbed out was kind of really troublesome for their synergy and just kind of made some of the strategies they had been working on during the week kind of null and void because they didn't have the other half to that mindset. I actually talked to Spicy Hot Meme earlier in the week about this, so he was kind of upset about that.
Yeah, and it's hard to have a sub mid laner versus probably the best mid laner in the league. Um, that probably wasn't too fun for Polar Boss to step into. Um, though Alan Z Tardis came back for Team Phoenix, and he seems to be synergizing with their replacement AD carry, Evil Envy. So they're really shaping up to look like the first place team, which they are in first place. Um, Anyone else watch those games or have anything to say? Okay. Set three, Team Blitzkrieg versus Take the Lantern. Ended in a 2-0 for Take the Lantern, leaving Team Blitzkrieg in last place still with 0 wins under their belt. Not for lack of trying. I think every single game this split, they've had a gold lead at some point. Um, just kind of sad to see that happen. I know since I'm on Take the Lantern, those are really tough early games versus them. They seem to need a little bit more macro play.
I agree, and I think in the history of the LCUS, they're the most winning losingest team in our play history. Just such a strong performance in the bot lane. Goonstomp always a dominating force, and it's just these late games. It drops off so hard for them. I don't know if it's just the macro or maybe the meta's hitting them a little hard, but there's something here that just needs to ignite, and this could be a championship team.
Yeah, I feel like they're almost like Team Envy of 2017. They do really well in the early game, but they just can't seem to translate that into late game success or reliable wins. Watching the second game was, well, the first game and the second game was kind of disheartening because they were doing really well and had some pretty good leads against Take the Lantern, but unfortunately they weren't able to translate those into lasting leads or closing out the game for that matter.
Yeah. So we got to see 4 Vagar picks in 6 games.
And 3 Kaisa picks.
And, yeah.
There was a Kaisa every set, and that was exciting.
But no Anivia. Even though Anivia got a nice buff in 8-11.
Well, she gets permabanned in the LCUS. Don't you know that?
I don't think anyone on Cowbell or anyone in the first set touches it, but that's neither here nor there. So patch 8.11. It came out last week, and we all know that it kind of screwed with all the 80 carries a little bit, especially the champion pools. Seems like nobody's playing crit 80 carries. Have you guys seen any success coming out of those?
Um, yes and no, because some of the 80 carries you used to play as crit 80 carries have been moving away from the crit items and more towards like Stormrazor, um, and Essence Reaver. So they've been moving away from the crit builds, but the carries have still been played. Like Jhin and Draven and Xayah all used to be crit 80 carries, but people have been opting for, yeah, Stormrazor on
I mean,
them
that's why you see
instead.
like this patch, Misfortune has like jumped up in win rate because she's gone back to the lethality build, especially with the change to Lord Dominic's, where it's total armor pen. Oof.
Yeah. I definitely agree that Storm Razors is the item for crit 80 carries to start with, and that yeah, Misfortune is dominating the win percentage right now
Hmm.
with 54-ish%. That's pretty massive.
And it's actually kind of interesting to see everyone moving away from Infinity Edge because they kind of buffed and nerfed it. It doesn't give you crit chance by itself anymore, but it doubles your crit chance.
Yep.
And it also gives you a percentage of that damage as true damage. So personally, I think Riot should just remove true damage from the game entirely. Um,
Interesting. Why is that?
because it feels like such a gimmicky stat, and then you get it on certain champions' kits like Master Yi or Darius or even Cho'Gath ult,
Yep.
things like that, and you just get massive bursts of damage that you cannot do anything about because you can't build resistances for that.
Yeah, that's fair. I personally wish Riot would just take crit out of the game and just give damage amplification. Um, but that's neither here nor there. Um, yeah, I think that people. Do you think that when the LCS starts again? I know the LPL is going right now, and people start to see what the pros are building for crit 80 carries if they're playing them at all. Do you think that's gonna maybe bump the win rates up a bit? Because
It might, but I feel like what we've at least been seeing across solo queue or whatever, uh, the rise in like Guinsoo's and Stormrazor and even Essence Reaver abusing champions is probably going to move to um, priority.
yeah,
Especially because crit just takes so long to actually come online now, because you have to get to, your third or fourth item to really start doing that same amount of damage. And by the time you get there, the game is usually over.
yeah, that's for sure. The having to get third item IE is really a killer. I personally don't see much difference in damage once you get to 3 items.
Hmm.
If you go Storm Raiders, Zeal item, IE, right? Like, you're just as good as you were if you went 2 Zeal items and an IE before. Um, but yeah, laning phase is important, and they really kind of screwed up crit A carries for that.
Right, especially because before you could back with say like 900 gold and get a pickaxe, if you wanted to just build it into IE, and now that's not necessarily an option. And 600 gold for 10% crit chance just feels really bad. It's so inefficient.
Yeah, Zeals are kind of rough to build at the moment. Um, so what about the new items on characters that aren't played AD carry?
Okay, so their intention was kind of to rework the dynamic of the bot lane, giving 80 carries different items and like kind of lowering the dominance of crit ADCs. But their changes to Essence Reaver especially has actually kind of done a lot of influence in other roles like top lane and the jungle more specifically. Uh, well, more specifically top lane, but also in the jungle with champions that can build the Essence Reaver and kind of abuse it, like Renekton, for example, or even Teemo or Jax, in that you ult and then your auto attacks give you Essence Flare, which for 8 seconds gives you 30% attack speed, and your basic attacks refund 20% of your remaining non-ultimate cooldowns, and that's on a 30-second internal cooldown.
Yeah.
So basically, one of the things was Renekton, when he ults, he can get 2 stuns off in one combo.
Oh, that's nice. I'm glad that exists.
It's very strong on Master Yi as well. He gets to go in alpha a lot more.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see if Riot does anything to kind of lower the impact of that in other lanes or just nerf the item in general to kind of make it less desirable, because the utility from it is just almost oppressive.
Yeah, you wonder how much they tested that. It's also interesting to see that being built on Renekton when, like, one of the things people would reading the item would be like, oh my god, I get all that mana back, but Renekton doesn't have mana. Still building it because it being so good on him is kind of a shout out for how crazy that is.
There's some Diana mains who have even been building it
Yeah,
just for the extra attack speed and the reset on your shield after you ult.
that's what I was thinking. I was like, but the AD might not be good, but hey, if he's there
Right.
doing it, that's crazy.
Well, and with Teemo, you can get a lot of blinds off as well. And Jax, you can get your Counter Strike up a lot.
And jumps, right? Just keep
Yeah,
chasing.
and jumps and empower. There's just a lot of troublesome things that it causes that make top lane in more of a state of flux than it previously was.
Yeah. Um. Okay. So one thing that surprised me from the a week 4 was the amount of tank junglers that we saw. Since in solo queue, all you're seeing right now is Graves, Xin Zhao, and other early game carries. What do you guys think that tank junglers showed up, or do you think that's just like our meta?
I think it's more so our meta. Um, Graves, Zen, and Kha'Zix all did take nerfs on this last patch, but they weren't enough to like take them out of the jungle or drop them in priority. I was just kind of putting them back in line with where they should be. Um, but I feel like tank junglers in the LCUS have just kind of been a staple because we all value that team coordination and stuff more than you would in a solo queue game. Because in a solo queue game, everyone wants to carry, so you're more likely to see those really strong, fast clearing, oppressive junglers in solo queue. And I guess we can just in the LCUS we kind of try to work around that and take the team dynamic and go for the late game team fights and whatnot.
Well, if I agree, but I think it also is the major factor that tanks and utility work 100 times better in a communicative environment. So when you're not worried about having to put the whole team on your shoulders, that Sedge pick is a much more solid and effective choice, knowing that you can call the dive and it's going to happen.
Yeah. Anyone else have anything they want to talk about for the patch that happened last week?
We get the reintroduction of Butcher's Bridge, which has been gone for a very long time. I wasn't playing when it first came around, but
We
it's
also have
nice
some
to
pretty.
see.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, it's nice to see some of the quality of life updates to ARAM, kind of making
Yep.
it a little bit more enjoyable again.
Yeah, I personally hate ARAM, but I do enjoy the fact that they added the health packs that act like a tiny redemption. That
hmm
feels good as a team and feels like they're a little bit more fun to fight over.
Right. I really appreciate that they expanded the available champion pool, so ARAM only accounts are a little bit harder to do now. So you're not always going to get the overpowered champions like before. And then also the way that you can change during champ select. Like if you re-roll something, it goes up to the top of the screen, and someone else can pick from that.
Yeah, that's really
I
You don't
like
have
nice.
to.
yeah, I like the fact that they increase the rate at which you earn rerolls based on like how many champions you own. Um, Going back to the increased free rotation thing, they made it ARAM pool is the last three of free rotations. So instead of only having a free rotation of about 14, you have a free rotation of about 40
Mhm.
characters. So that definitely helps with those ARAM only accounts. Um,
Yeah, it's good to see. Uh, I love pirates, so that's a fun map. All right, and with that, we'll move on to our sponsor of the week. Sponsor for week 5 of the LCUS and week 5 of Let's Talk About the League is the Simple Soyman. For the past few weeks, they've been sponsoring this show, and we appreciate everything that they do. They produce local whole foods and soy foods and health foods for the Milwaukee, Madison, and Chicago area. That is the Simple Soyman. Also, a special shout out to Sig Lord for being a Twitch Prime sub during this show. Thank you, Sig. Okay. And on to this upcoming week 5. Before we get into week 5, I'd like to talk a little bit about what we think it's going to take to make the playoffs this week. Well, overall, last split, some teams were getting in with like one team had 5 points to get into the playoffs. But it looks like just based on the standings that a team will probably need 9 points to make the playoffs for sure. Which all teams are still able to do right now, funny enough, but some of them a little bit harder to do than others. Yeah, all teams have a shot. So getting into week 5, the first set of games between Take the Lantern versus Team Sub Northern Storm. They actually have the same lineup this week that they had in week 1. So for the first time of the split, they are repeating a roster. That was the week that they went 2-0 and got their points as well. So it'll be an interesting set of games to see. What are you guys looking forward to in a matchup between Take the Lantern and Northern Storm? Anything?
I feel like it's going to be a pretty even matchup, and I'm expecting a 1-1. Because I feel like the teams are pretty even as far as a skill level goes and team cohesion and whatnot, which is kind of surprising to say, seeing that Northern Storm is down in the standings about 3 places from Take the Lantern. But I definitely feel like the whole league is very close together skill-wise.
Yep.
I'm pretty pumped for this jungle matchup. I think Meme did a great job last week with Graves. Definitely put on his carry shoes to provide some real strength to that team. And I think that's going to play very interesting into the play strategy that Lantern uses.
Yeah, coming from Take the Lantern, Spicy Hot Meme is definitely one of the people we're looking at this week as the strength for Northern Storm. Possible to ban him out since he plays super weird stuff. But it's going to be exciting to go versus them, and excited to see them with I'm going to say full roster, even though it still has a sub. Good to see. Set 2, it will be between More Cowbell and Team Blitzkrieg. I think this is a super important week for both teams. Cowbell only has 2 games left because they 2 games left because they don't have their bye week until the last week of the season. So if they want to reach that 9 points, they really have to start now. What do you guys think about the matchup between Shaden versus Greatbeard of Odin in the top lane? After Greatbeard of Odin pulled out Fiora and Gnar and not tanks versus I mean, you guys played versus Shaden and he just first picked Jace both games. Anything?
I like that this matchup is shaping up to be a carry fight, with Odin definitely showing that he is capable of playing a little bit more of a carry champion, like with the Fiora pick, because that's Shaden's pool right there. So I'm pretty excited for that match. This whole match, it's really the highlight of the week for me, with Huge and CB Hickey. I think that with Hickey playing a definite more utility role in this team, with a lot of the Galio pick last week, that's going to be exciting to see. But I am so hyped for this bot lane fight right now. It's just going to be a complete and utter just bloodbath. Brandana going into Goonstomp with Mr. Pig and Chaos just right there. I mean, this is two of the most dynamic teams in the LCUS. It's going to be a slaughter.
I think it's going to be a really interesting matchup as well. I feel like, especially the mid lane is rather even between the two teams. So the point of focus is for both teams. For Cowbell needs to be their top lane is their win condition. Obviously, Shaden's a very good player, and he was able to do a lot of the heavy lifting against us when we played them. And for Blitzkrieg, I think they need to focus on their bot lane a little bit more. I feel like Greatbeard Odin can kind of try to hold his own against Shaden enough that their bot lane should be able to get the ball rolling, with Cheney hopefully putting a lot of attention down there, kind of shut down the bot lane of Morcabella as well.
If CB Hickey pulls out Galio again, which is great for the utility, and they showed that in their first game against us this last week, but I'd really like to see him be just more aggressive or present in lane, at least in the early game. And I know that's hard against like a Viger, but I was just really able to abuse him in that second game. So I'd like to see him just be a bit more aggressive.
Yeah, I'll be interested to watch the mid lane matchup as well. With both players having a Vigar tendency, it'll be fun to see which one of them actually grabs it or if it just gets banned out.
I feel like both players share a lot of champions in their pool. The Ziggs, Vigar, and Galio have all both been played by them both a lot in the past couple splits that they've been in the LCUS and just in their match history alone. So I'd like to see how contested the Galio pick is, because it adds a lot to each team for utility and team fights. So
Yeah.
it's going to be interesting to see that.
Yeah, and can't count out Brandana either. So the third set, and in my opinion, the hype set of the week, is between Option 12 and Team Phoenix. They're battling for first place, and it'll be exciting to see if, at least for me, if anybody gets a Nivea, or if both teams get a Nivea. Since Van Hohenheim and Limakis, Lice, whatever he wants to be called, plays pretty good in Niveas. Both got to play at this split. Kind of jealous about that.
Yeah, I doubt either team will let Anivia through because both the mid laners are very good at playing Anivia as well as the mid laner for Take the Lantern. So definitely a contested pick. I'm expecting to see red side bans on Anivia every game, or both games. As well as I don't think they're going to let the Vigar through for Van Hohenheim. I feel like the top lane and the mid lane are both going to be pretty close matchups. I feel like the top lane is going to be the matchup to watch, though.
Yeah. They both have very unique champion pools. Both play Yorick, which no one else really seems to. I think Mundo's come out in the top lane. Ornn, Swain, Yorick, all sorts of weird stuff. Sig, what do you think about this matchup?
I think this is. I want to say that I'm leaning one way or another. Phoenix definitely flexed their muscles this prior week. In terms of their play, Hohenheim has just been a beast every time he's played. Always been a strong performer. But I don't know, man. Menards has really been making a lot of great strides since the start of the split, where he was showing carry potential, and Option 12 as a whole had that. But he's even shown growth over time on a winning team. So I don't know exactly what's going to happen. I want to see real contention for this first place spot. This is probably the closest split we've had so far in the LCUS. So I hope we can continue that.
I feel like option 12 is almost a little underrated on their ability to work as a team and their map rotations and macro play. Uh, that was one of the biggest reasons why they were able to beat us almost effortlessly. Because I feel like they're just on that next level of teamwork and stuff. So that's definitely going to be one of the strongest things that's going to give them an edge over Phoenix.
Especially if they don't pick Kindred and Ivern.
Oh, new meta. New
New
meta. Let's go to
meta.
that one.
Yeah.
Tell Riot we want that one.
Essence Reaver, Ivern. Let's go. All right. So that wraps up the preview. And we have 2 questions for this week. The first question is, I think is especially great since Arcane Soda is with us. Is there any truth to look better, play better? And does that influence you buying skins in League of Legends?
I'm just a collector, man.
Okay.
It's all about variety. Playing the same skins or just no skins every game, it just gets boring. You gotta spice it up, you know?
That's fair. What about you, Premden?
So I do think that like when you have one of the nicer skins, you're kind of expected to play at a better level anyway, or you want to, because you don't want to let, anyone else down thinking like, why'd you spend all this money on a skin if you're awful at this champion? For example, Elementalist Lux, if you go into a game and miss every single skill shot, you kind of feel bad about that using that skin.
Yeah, that's why I don't have that skin.
If you play Yasuo with skins, you should just feel bad about yourself already.
I actually do have a skin for Yasuo. I have the project
Well,
skin.
you already know my opinion of you, so.
Yeah. I have the project skin for Yasuo, and that skin is actually much worse than his default skin in regards to animations and all that stuff. His Duskbringer, something like that, Dusk Knight something, is one of his better skins and honestly makes playing the champion easier. So for the most part, I don't believe that buying skins helps you at all. But there's definitely some skins that make the animations and mechanics a little bit easier to use, which
I feel like
sucks.
Project Yasuo is like one of the most memed skins in the game.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we have a Project Yasuo, I guess we're gonna lose.
Yeah, I've actually stopped using it because it honestly makes you play worse. What about you, Seg?
I'm a firm believer that skins make you play better, not because of the whole investment aspect, but if there's a reason that sports teams have home jerseys versus away jerseys, and it's not just sales numbers. It's because when your aesthetic matches your feeling, you definitely perform better. I'm way behind that. Fun fact, I am the world's greatest support main, but prior to this, I played top lane, and the only reason I picked up support was someone mystery gifted me Championship Thresh. So I picked up the role to try it out and haven't left since. So skins have definitely got me wins because I am god-awful up top.
Well, good to hear that you're playing support now, and it's the best support player in the world.
Hands down.
Hands down.
Move over, everyone.
All right, and the last question for tonight is going to be it came from the audience a few weeks ago, but this is a good time to ask it as well. What game or games do you turn to when you need a break from League of Legends? Anybody?
Overwatch.
Get out.
That would make me more tilted, honestly.
I only play quick play, and I only play elimination. It's very enjoyable, and it has a limited player pool, so you don't have to worry about tryhards as much.
Okay.
I am
And
so
it-
god awful at Overwatch that I'm so god awful at FPSs that playing them just makes me more tilted than League.
Well, that's the good thing about Overwatch. Overwatch, you don't have to FPS. You can just hold the button on most champions or heroes or whatever they call them. Overwatchers.
Overwatchers.
You just got to hold the button for most Overwatchers, and everything works out.
Fair.
For me, I have a multitude of games. They kind of cycle. Like Diablo 3 is one of them. Every once in a while, I get into a StarCraft arcade mode. Sometimes it's nice to take a little break with like Minecraft or Terraria. Um, there's just almost too many to name.
And then for me, I usually turn to like solo player RPGs. Like Dark Souls, Kingdom Hearts, Legend of Zelda. Something that I can sit back and just kind of play by myself and make progress in and feel good about that progress.
Yeah, cool. For me, I don't really have anything. I just tilt off the face of the planet. Um, but I used to play FTL, Faster Than Light,
Mhm.
a little bit. Um, that was a good one to untilt with until your ship gets blown up. But with that, we'll wrap up for this week. One final shout out to Grigosaurus Rex for the Twitch Prime sub for 2 months in a row. Thank you. It was nice to get to know you guys a little bit better. Good luck on your bye week, White Wolf. And that's it from us.